Do you have extreme clarity on the vision for what you're creating for next year? And whenever you're watching this or listening to this podcast, next year could be coming soon. Like the time of this recording, and when I put this video out, it's Q4 of 2024. And some people set goals on January 1st or December 31st for the coming year. And I think that's too late. The time to set goals and get clarity on what you're creating for the vision for your life and your business is in Q4. Ideally, it's October, but certainly we want to make sure it's done before Thanksgiving, because once Thanksgiving hits, the holidays are all that we are focusing on, and it takes a lot of attention, and we should be present with people we love during that time. So Q4 is the perfect time, October ideally, and November if we have to begin visioning and creating what it is that we want to accomplish for the next year. Now, again, if you're watching this video or listening to this podcast after when this was produced, right, and it's the middle of the year, you can still do this now. It's never too late to create plans for what your vision is. So here's how we go about this. I used to teach business planning clinics where we would pour in to all of the the things that we're tracking, the KPIs and all of the benchmarks we want to hit and the goals we want to accomplish for the business. And it was like, oh, and as an addition, let's talk about how your life can support this. I then at one point separated it and said, let's do a business planning clinic and a life planning clinic. And now I realize you can't separate something that's whole. You are a whole being. Your business, your life cannot be separated. And so now with my clients, I wrap this into one, and we do this all at once. And here's my invitation for you. I want you to look at your calendar. Now, again, if you're watching this at the time that it's produced, we want to get this done before Thanksgiving. And if it's past Thanksgiving, certainly you can do it in December. And if you're watching this or listening in the middle of the year, you can do it now. Look at your calendar right now. And I want you to identify 2 half days back to back. So it could be an afternoon and a morning, or it could be, that would be ideal, an afternoon and a morning, or take an entire full day. And you have dedicated it to this 2025 or whatever year you're moving into, vision creation. And you really do need an entire day or 2 half days. Ideally, it's 1 full day. And the energy that you bring into these sessions is so crucial. I want you to start the day by doing something that fills your soul that morning, something right before you sit down. That could be spending time in nature. It could be playing basketball. It could be exercising. It could be being with someone that you love, doing something you enjoy more than anything else in this world. You could be in prayer or meditation in a church, a synagogue, or a temple. Something that brings you into this creation time full so that your cup runneth over. We don't want to do this at the end of a work day or at the end of a weekend when we're depleted because we're pouring energy into others or our business. So make sure that you come into the session full, not drained, and be very intentional about what you do right before the session. Now, if you would like, you can bring a friend, you can bring a business partner, you can bring your spouse or significant other along with you in this journey. And there's nothing wrong, right, with doing this with others. And for introverts, you can do this alone. I do this alone. And you just tell people that you're not available during that time, that you are creating something that's going to be super beneficial to them when you come out of this time. Make certain that you plan for appropriate breaks during this session. You can exercise, you can play, you can listen to music, you can take a nap, you can eat really good, healthy food. Ensuring that your energy is at its best is going to be very, very critical to the success of this time that you've devoted. And then plan ahead for when you're done to reward yourself with something that you really will look forward to after you've completed it. That could be a special meal with someone. It could be time to do something that you love again, like maybe how you started the day. Ensure that there is a celebration that you have to look forward to at the end of this time together. So now that you've got all this prepared, what do you do during this time? Now, if you would like to have this in written format, because it will be so much easier for you to look at rather than me just talking through it, or both, feel free to shoot me an email. And in the subject line, just say vision creation. And you can send that to Andrew at andrewlanderson, spelled O-N.com. So Andrew at andrewlanderson.com. And in the subject line, just write vision creation. And we will get you a document that has all of this outlined for you. The first step that we want to go through as we sit down with pen and paper, it could be a whiteboard, you could be on your driveway with some sidewalk chalk, a journal. We want to make sure we can capture the answers to these questions and what it is that you're creating for the vision for this awesome, ideal year. And the first step is we want to look at gratitude for the gain. And when I say gratitude for the gain, I'm talking about how far you've come. Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy wrote the book, The Gap and the Gain, talking about how as leaders, we often are living in the gap between where we're at and where we're going. And we forget about the gain, how far we've come. So as we start this session, creating the vision for this next year, we don't want to forget about how far we've come, what we've accomplished, what we have gained personally and professionally. So I call this part gratitude for the gain. And here's what I'm going to invite you to do. I want you to look back. If you've been working with me as a coaching client, or if you've been watching my videos or listening to these podcasts, you've heard me talk about a word of the year. I love this. It's one word that sums up who you need to be, how you are going to show up, and what your focus will be. Meaning if we can achieve this word, be this kind of a person, make this our focus, then everything else will fall into place. So I want you to look back on your word of the year for this past year. And how have you seen this come to fruition? What challenges have you faced as you've made this word a focus? And what have you, or where have you struggled to show up this way or experience this to its fullest? And what have you learned about that word? What does it mean to you now that maybe you didn't have when you set that intention a year ago? The next question is, how has this word influenced your life mission? This word should have pumped life into and magnified your life mission. And if you don't have extreme clarity on your life mission, I invite you to go back to previous videos and podcasts that I've done. And I invite you to get clarity on that life mission by answering 5 simple questions. If you need help, shoot us an email. We'll direct you with the link to that episode specifically. So again, how has this word that you've been focusing on, how has it influenced the pursuit of your life mission? The next thing I'd like you to do as we're continuing to find gratitude for the gain, for how far we've come this past year, is to actually open up your calendar and go through every single day. Look at the appointments that you held. Who are you meeting with? Where were you? And specifically, I want you to write down the names of people that you're grateful to have met and spent time with. Who was it that impacted you to a great degree this past year? And I also like to put in parentheses who introduced you to that person. Sometimes as you do this, we forget that that person just showed up that year, or maybe we forgot about them already, and it's a great reminder to reach out again and reconnect. Or maybe the person that introduced you to that person, you can send a quick note of gratitude and be like, hey, I'm looking back on this past year, some of the most impactful people that came in my world. Remember John, when you introduced me to him? I don't know if I ever shared with you what's happened since. Thank you so much for bringing the two of us together. A powerful way for us to focus on our gratitude for the gain. As you look back on this past year and you go through your calendar, I invite you to look at the memories that you want to treasure You may even look at pictures on your phone or go back through journal entries. This simple way of looking back on these memories will not just take you down memory lane, but it'll bring an additional amount of gratitude for how far you've come. Note the major accomplishments. What did you do this year this past year that really stands out? What have you accomplished? And where did you fail? Those failures are just times for us to learn. And as we look back on where we failed, we can capture the learnings, and those failures don't go to waste. What are the greatest things, based on your failures and accomplishments and all these people, what are the greatest things that you've learned this year? Note those lessons and see where you've grown based on what you've learned. And as you look at goals that you set for last year, where are you now in Q4 or wherever you happen to be at this time? Where are you now in regards to those goals? And I also would ask you to look at your wheel of life. I've done other episodes on the wheel of life. Again, if you want us to send this wheel of life to you, shoot me an email. But as you look at these 6 areas of career, the number one relationship, your significant other spouse, your family, your fitness and nutrition, your personal growth and development, your spirituality. As you look at this wheel of life, how does it look today compared to where you were a year ago? And what does that tell you about how far you've come this year? All of these questions and activities are helping you to discover the gratitude for the gain, for where you're at today compared to where you were a year ago. I think there are only really 2 times that we should ever be looking back in our lives. The first is if we haven't learned something, and we need to look back and learn something new so we can let go of old beliefs and negative emotions that are limiting us, that aren't serving us. Those beliefs and emotions that we hold on to are trying to teach us something. And with a powerful coach or professional like me, we can go back and we can let go of those things and learn what we need to learn so we can move forward. So that's the first time to look back. The second time is to celebrate wins. And that's what you're doing at the beginning of this 2025 or whatever year you're moving into vision creation. We're celebrating how far we've come. So important. Now what? What do we do after we're done celebrating how far we've come? Well, we want to check in on the gap, meaning where are you now in comparison to where you desire to be? And here's some questions that I'd love for you to go through as you work on this portion. As you think about your someday goals, where are you today? If you don't have clarity on your someday goals, I invite you to get clarity. I talk about this in other episodes and I talk about it in my book, but really having that big picture for your life. I call it in my book a rat park. And if you don't know what that means, I'm going to leave you hanging so you can go out and find more. But really having that amazing someday vision for where you're going. And then also 10-year and 5-year goals. Where are you today in regard to that someday 10-year and 5-year vision that you have cast for yourself? And as you look at the big picture, what adjustments, if any, need to be made to these? Have life circumstances changed where you want to be someday based on where you've been this past year, as well as for the 10 and 5-year goals? It's a great idea annually to revisit these long-term visions that you have for yourself and adjust them as needed. The next thing I'd have you think about is what values in your life need to be realigned right now to recalibrate where it is that you're headed. Those values are the unconscious drivers of all of the goals, of the habits, of the decisions that we make. And when values are out of alignment, we end up getting results that are subpar. So again, what values need to be realigned in your life right now to calibrate where you're headed? The next thing I'm going to do might be the most powerful thing that happens in this day. I'd like you to write a letter to yourself, or you can do a journal entry from your future self. And it sounds like this. It is now October of 2025 or November of 2025, or it's a year, right? It's that month, a year from when it is that you're doing this. And as I look back on this past year and look ahead to the future, I can really say that this has been the best year of my life. And here's what's happened. And you can write about everything that's happened for you. And here's who I've met. And here's who I've been able to help. And these are some of the miracles that I've seen along the way. And this is what I've learned this past year. And I'm so grateful to have accomplished the following things. And I now know this about myself that I didn't know a year ago. Here's what's happened in my relationships that matter most. Here's what's taken place in my wheel of life in all of these areas. And what you'll do is, again, you're writing this journal entry as if you're looking back on this past year. Or again, you're writing a letter and you're saying, for me it would be, Dear Andrew from October 2024, let me tell you about this past year. You're going to make this journal entry or letter the most exhaustive writing you've ever done. I want you to consider every aspect of your life. And when something comes to you, don't judge it. Just put it down. Go with the flow on this. Trust your instincts. Allow that bigger, better version of you, your spirit, to break through anything, including fears or limiting beliefs, that may prevent you from writing down what it is that you're thinking and feeling. So put it all on there. Now, the next thing we're going to step into, as we've now checked in on the gap and given gratitude for the gain, is what I call closing the gap and creating the gain. So based on where you want to be in a year from now, I want you to ask yourself this question. Who do I need to be right now? In one word. This now becomes your word of the year for next year. Again, based on where I want to be in a year from now, who do I need to be right now? This is your word of the year. Write it down. Make it big. Make it bold. Put it on your mirror. Put it on the back of the door where you go to the bathroom. Make a poster and put it up in your garage. Spray paint it into the driveway. Don't do that. So you have your word of the year. And look at your wheel of life. Again, these 6 areas: career, relationship, family, fitness and nutrition, personal growth and development, spirituality. Which area of your wheel of life needs the greatest attention today? Knowing that if it's a 10 out of 10 or a 12 out of 10, then everything else in your life will be so much better. This is where we want to focus. One of my favorite quotes is an old Russian proverb that says, if you chase 2 rabbits, you will catch neither one. So we want to focus on one area of your life, knowing that if this one becomes a 10 or a 12 out of 10, then everything else will be so much better. And now that you got that area defined, what 3 values will you focus on in that area to move you forward? Let's say you pick relationship, that's the area. And the 3 most important values to you when it comes to having that relationship with that one person, maybe it's trust, maybe it's selflessness, and maybe it's compassion. So identify what are the top 3 values in that area of your life that you're going to focus on to help you move forward. If you need help with this, I'm here for you. This is what I do with my clients. You can use my book, and I also have videos talking about values and podcasts. So you can go back in and get that information. So what 3 values will I focus on that will move me forward in this area? And what 1-year goals will I be setting in this area? So get clarity on those goals. I like to say no more than 3. If we have more than 3 goals, we seem to forget what 4, 5, and 6 might be. So get clarity on the 3 values and no more than 3 goals on this area of my life. And as you look at those 3 goals, what is the one thing that you'll have to accomplish these next 12 months that will have the biggest impact on everything else. So we're narrowing, we're getting clarity on the one thing. What is that one goal, the one accomplishment that once achieved will have the biggest impact on everything else? Do you have it? Once you have that, things get so much more simple. Now, who are you going to ask to support you in this? Having that clarity on who will support you is just as, if not more important than how am I going to achieve it? Because sometimes we don't know the how, but the right who's will help us discover how we're going to achieve these things. So who will help you? Who will be the most supportive person or people to achieve this one thing that you've set to accomplish for the year? And is there anyone else that you need to bring into your world to accomplish your vision for this year? Are there new hires, new coaches, new friends, new communities, new organizations? Who else do you need to help you achieve this vision? And what tools or resources or systems will make this very, very smooth for you? If we have the right people and the right plan without the right resources, tools, and systems, things get really messy. So we want to make sure we have those tools, resources, and systems to make for a smooth, right, fulfillment of what it is that we're creating. And look at your schedule. I like to change my schedule up at least a couple times a year. Certainly once a year would be a great way to do it as well. Does your schedule need to change? What needs to be different? How can things shift so that you can accomplish and be supported by everything that you've put your mind to here? Now, this next one can be so challenging for business leaders and for moms and for dads and for college students, but specifically for high achievers, executives. They really struggle with this one. And it's something that I've implemented this year that has been a game changer for me. I want you right now to make a plan for how many free days. What defines a free day? No work, no emails, no text messages, no planning, just zero work. It's a free day. You don't think about, you don't look at, you don't touch anything related to the business. 150 of these for the coming year. You can go January, February, March, April, May, all the way through and decide how many would I like to take each month? What are those consistent days? Is it Friday and Saturday? Is it Saturday and Sunday? Is it Sunday and Wednesday? What are those consistent days each week that I am free from work? And put those vacations, put the holidays on there, and book as many of them as possible as you can. At the very least, month by month, so that as you're making plans for each month, you take that number and you ensure that they are reflected on your calendar. This ability to be free from work frees you up to have the energy you need to be all in, present, purposeful, passionate when you are at work. You see, all work expands to fill the time that we allow. And if you give yourself 7 days, it's going to take 7 days. But if you give yourself 3 days, you'll get it done in 3 days. And when there's a lot at stake, like a vacation or an emergency, a health scare, it doesn't take any time at all, because we find the right who's that will help us accomplish what we need to accomplish. 150 days, do it. One of the biggest game changers for creating and attaining a vision for your next year. All right, now that you've done all of this, I want you to create a vision board. It's very simple. Just pull out a document on your computer, start copying and pasting images, maybe get some magazines if you want to actually cut and paste physically, but create a vision board and invite your spouse or significant other, maybe a best friend or your children to do this with you. Make it fun. And if you've done this by yourself, because you're the introvert like me, then share what you created with someone that will really be able to support you and hold you accountable to what you envision for the year. So you've got the vision board. and you can see visually what it is that you're creating. The next thing is create a one-page GPS. I've talked about this in my book. I've done other episodes, but it's very simple. You write that one goal that you want to achieve for the year. That's the G. You write down the 3 most important priorities that you will focus on to help you achieve that goal. And then you write up to 5 strategies. 1 goal, 3 priorities, up to 5 strategies for each priority. It doesn't have to be 5. In fact, the less, the better, but no more than 5. And it all has to fit on 1 page. If you can get it all on 1 page, it'll be very, very, very easy for you to focus on that. If it's more than 1 page, it's too long. Keep it ultra simple. 1, 3, 5. 1 goal, 3 priorities, up to 5 strategies. Now, the worst way that you can leave this planning session is to keep that 1-page GPS on your computer or put it into a drawer. We want to keep that thing out all year long, wherever you do your best work, on your desk, on the wall, in the bathroom. Make it visible. I love the quote from Muhammad Ali: move like a butterfly, sting like a bee. He can't hit what he can't see. When it comes to hitting goals, you got to be able to see it. Hence the vision board and the GPS that's out somewhere that you can see on a consistent basis. All right, now you got the GPS. The last thing you're going to do is what I call Q4 411s, determine 2025 or the next year. So Q4, that's right now, the 4th quarter. Your 411 will determine where you end up at the end of this next year. And the 411 is simple. You can find this in my book, other videos, you can email me, but it is the one goal that you're looking to achieve for the year. And a reminder of what those 1-year goals are. It's what are the most important goals for this month. So 1 year, 1 month, and then 4 weeks. 411. 1 year goals, 1 month goals, and these 4 weeks. And we do each week at a time. And we do this during a weekly planning session, a 411 meeting. As you begin to implement this week, right now in Q4, whatever you're working on now is going to come to fruition next year. So we want to get started now. And as you end each day with this 2025 vision in mind, with that vision board, with the GPS, literally right in front of you, that will ensure that your calendar tomorrow is aligned and calibrated with your vision for this next year. That, my friends, is how we create a vision for 2025 or whatever year it is that you're stepping into. So, quick recap. Start off doing something at the beginning of this day that fills your soul. Bring someone along with you if you'd like. Take breaks, exercise, play, and ensure that during that time your energy stays high. And at the end, reward yourself. Start with the gratitude for the gain. Look at how far you've come. Check in on the gap where you want to be someday and in 10 years and 5 years. Close that gap and create the gain by getting clarity on who you need to be this year, that word of the year. What values you're going to focus on in this one area of your life, and what one goal you're going to achieve in this area that will make everything else easier. Who needs to come with you? What needs to change in your schedule? Do I have 150 free days to ensure that my energy is at its best all year long? Make that 2025 or whatever year it is, that vision board. Create that 1-page GPS and make sure that you have a weekly 411 meeting to remind yourself of your 1-year goals, your 1-month goals, and where you need to be this week. And then every single night, at the end of your workday and at the beginning of the next, make sure that your calendar is supporting where you need to be this week. Gary Keller says that the purpose of a goal is to be appropriate in the moment. And these goals bring appropriateness to every decision that we make in this very moment. I'm so excited for what you're creating for this next year. If you would like me to come be a part of your personal planning or to help train and facilitate this for your company, I will happily do so. Reach out. I am here for you. You have way more inside you than anybody knows. Your potential is design. God has big plans for you. And I invite you to align those plans and make this next year the best you've ever had. You know someone that needs to hear this as well. And my invitation would be to send this to them. Like, subscribe. As you do so, I know it sounds like I'm just asking for followers, but I believe that this is indispensable information. That this process is something that everybody can use to change their life. So I appreciate your support, liking, subscribing, sharing, giving this podcast or video to someone else that needs it. That would mean the world to me. I can't wait to see what you create this next year, and I'm happy to help you along in the process.